Okay, so I received this SWF file from one of my puppet producer customers who is having trouble with one of the poses, in particular the 315 pose. Now, unfortunately, he just sent me this SWF file, which I can't actually open inside of Flash, so I can't really take a look inside to see any other specific reasons why that character is not working the way it's supposed to. But based primarily on what I can see visually right now, I can spot a few things that that he can do to make things better. For example, the nuds are okay. You know, it could be out here. Ideally, you want to put these like little nuds outside of the character, but they're perfectly fine where they are. Now, you also have to think about the alignment and placement, because these pivots have to be pretty much consistent across all the different angles. So the first thing I gotta point out, the first thing I have to point out right now is the arms. The arms are not exactly the same length. I mean, well, the character is not exactly the same size to begin with. So if you look at this shoulder area, I'm going to draw a straight line across, and I'm going to go down to the belt region. Okay, for the most part, the belt does stay the same. Here you can see that the belt goes up, here it goes down, here's up again, and it goes back to being on the same level this time. And then, of course, the shoulder region, you can see that if I go through this line, you have the shoulder region way down here, so this needs to be moved up some. And over here is below that line. Below is, this is a little high. This is below. So basically, you have to make the character the same size. You know, you have to carry across the proportions throughout all the different angles. So the proportions of the character are not exactly perfect. So that's one of the reasons why your character is not working across all the angles as you expect. The other reason here is, notice these arms. These arms are not the same length. So from here, let me get a more solid line. Okay, the bottom of these hands and the top of these arms, okay, you can see that on the main angle, the arms are okay, well, obviously, because this is the angle that you're going to judge everything else by. Now on this angle, you have one arm that is fairly consistent. It's about the same size. It's a little bit below that line there, but it goes below this line too. Over here, this arm is just way too long. So I mean, they have to be the same size. Here, it's definitely way too long. I mean, it's all the way down here, and where this arm is way up there. On this angle, it's fairly consistent. It goes a little bit above the line on the top end. On the bottom end, it's pretty consistent. This angle is fairly the same as well. What happened here? Let me see something. Close. Okay, so the other thing is, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm looking at three different back views. I don't know why there are three different back views. So that's definitely going to cause some kind of issue. You only need one of these. So I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is your 315. I don't know. But these angles here look pretty much the same to me. So I don't know, because I can't tell what the naming conventions you're using on the pivot points. It would be helpful if I had access to your FLA file, your actual Flash file. But the arms are definitely not the same length, so that's going to cause issues. Let's take a look at some other alignment issues. These legs are not straight. See how these legs are open? These legs need to come straight down, okay? You need to create these characters in a way that they're as orthogonal as possible, basically as straight as possible. Once you actually import this into Crazy Talk is going to create your perspective for you because of the 3D skeletal system that's applied to them. So here, these legs are definitely not following that straight line convention, and they're definitely, and even if they weren't, and even if they weren't, or if that was perfectly fine, you can see that if I follow this, these pivot points are not aligned to themselves. So this one is aligned to this one, but this one falls out of alignment, and then this one here falls out of alignment. So they are not properly aligned. So even if you were to keep this, it might work, but you still have to try to make an effort to make these pivot points align to each other. So that's definitely another issue there. And then of course there's consistency. For example, this hip joint, notice that this one aligns, that there's nothing on there, that one is way up there, this one's below, this one's up high, there's not a pivot point there, this one aligns fine. So that's going to cause issues. The lower torso pivot point, that seems to be fairly consistent on most of the angles. Here's below the line, here's below the line. This I can't tell, but it looks like it might be below the line. That's a little bit below. Let's see here. Let's take a look at this point here. I'm assuming this is for the neck. I'll make this thinner. So, okay, so you can see that this neck pivot point is not here, it's way down here. It might be okay there. This is way too high, this is high, this is way too high. That might be fine, and that's pretty much fine. Let's take a look at the head, bottom of the head pivot point. Okay, so that's too far down. That's okay. That's this one's way too high, that's too high, that's too high, that one's okay, and that one's way too low. So now let's look at the center line. The center line are your primary, your middle pivot points. So that means this one, this one, this one, and that one. So these also have to align in a straight line going that way. And those are fairly okay. Let's take a look at this one. That one is fairly okay. So that one's a little out of place right there to the right, a little too much. On this one, these all should align to the center. So you can see that some of these are like offside. That might require some tweaking. These leg pivot points are definitely off. Let's see here. That one, this one, and this one are aligned, but this one fall out of alignment. That one's definitely out of alignment. Okay, so this one and this one are fairly aligned, a little bit off, but not too much. These are outside of alignment. So are these, I'm sure. Let me see here. Actually, that one is fairly well aligned. That one's a little bit off. So I'm assuming the same issue as this one as with that one. And this one is definitely some kind of misalignment issue right there. So this and this align, but these are outside of alignment right there. So these pivot points needs to be straightened out, and that's just based on what I can see. I don't know if you have any badly named pivot points or anything like that, but I can definitely see that there's some alignment issues there and proportion issues. So try to keep your characters a little bit more consistent across all the angles. Try to avoid perspective. Keep the body parts the same size at all times, and give that a try. If you're still having issues, send me your FLA file, and I'll be more than happy to take a look at it inside of Flash and see if there's anything else we can do about that. All right.